Okay.
Okay. We will call the Monday, August 5th, 2024 Planning and Zoning meeting to order. Can we get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll second.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Shelley. Any opposed? All right, we'll move forward with our agenda. We had sent out the minutes from the last time we met, March 4th of 2024, and Tyler was not on the commission at that point, but we're just looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from March 4th. I'll second.
Any opposed? So minutes are passed. So then we'll look at the rezone request for the Conlon property off of Highway 20 and at the corner of Thunder Hills. The request is to move the zoning from A1 to C2.
And as I have been mentioning, it looks like he wants to just rezone a couple, like 5 acres on there. I want to take all that property from an A1 to a C2 because I don't want to end up doing spot zoning coming back, because it's just, I know the council will not approve of it. And I certainly hope that you wouldn't consider that as well.
And he's aware that that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So he owns a total of how many acres at that location?
50. And then where you see on the aerial, there's kind of like a little creek, a little ravine that runs through. To the east of that, Phil Mikalakis owns 72 acres there. And I think he's trying to sell it right now. This is not, there we go. The next step would be, after your discussion here, making the recommendation will go to council, which is next Tuesday. And then what they'll do is accept your recommendation. They have the right and the authority to say no or say yes to change it. And then we'll set a public hearing for September. And at that point, it's public comment only. You guys have all been through a public hearing. This will be your first one. If you'd like to attend, just to see what happens. Typically, if it's a hot button issue, then people will show up, but I don't believe this will be. No. The good thing about where this project's going, there's nothing behind it.
No neighbors.
Right. It's not going to be a noisemaker. It's set up in our comprehensive plan. This is exactly what we wanted. I mean, future development for that land had single family housing, but we're to the point now where we're good on housing. We're good on apartments. We really need some retail and we need some commercial. And the projects that he is proposing will definitely be the impetus to start the development, not only for the remainder of his property, but hopefully to the property to the east of that.
Does he have any opposition to changing this all in one swipe?
No. Again, Jim he likes to buy land and he likes to flip it. He's not a developer, so he's kind of learning the ropes as he goes, and he's a sponge. He's very open to it. We've talked many, many times about this. He wanted to do this on another project, and I advised him not to, and he took my advice.
So the LLC, the B and C? LLC.
Yes, that is Jim Conlon. And then I'm hoping once we get past the public hearing, I will ask the council to suspend the rules, do the 3 readings of the ordinance to change the zoning. That way that gives them the opportunity to submit plans to you guys for your review and recommendation to council. So hopefully if we get this, if all the stars align, we could get everything taken care of by October. I know that they'll want some incentives, but that won't involve you. We have to amend the urban renewal plan, which is, again, it's a process you have to go through. But I kind of want to do this in tandem. So that way they're in a good position to go out for bid in the spring and start turning some dirt.
So the properties adjoining on the northeast and east are also A1 at this
Yes,
time?
well, up here, this is not in the city proper. Only these 4 parcels right now. And these 2 are Bill Mikalakis's, and they are A1.
Okay.
And he has the opportunity to come in and not just nilly-willy change it to C2. We need to really have a bird in the hand before we make that decision. Because if that were to fall through, we'd have another end user come in and they wanted to zone something differently. It's a pain to go back through that process again. Not expensive, just painful.
So, sorry, I'm new, so I might ask a couple questions here, but if I was reading right, because I did follow some of this stuff, but was the C2 previously where that was kind of like grandfathered in where apartments could get built on that, and that's how they got around that?
Yes,
And the Callahan property?
That's, yes.
Okay.
yeah, there was a lot of apartments being built, so that's when planning and zoning, we met and we decided to kind of put the brakes on and take the apartments out of C2, out of C1 and C2. The PEDC, which is the Piasta Economic Development Corporation, has hired ECIA to do a housing study. That will be done at the end of this year, so the recommendation will be back to the council in January. And I think that's what they're really kind of looking at, whether to move, to put it back into C1 and C2 or just keep it out.
And like, how much do you guys, I mean, is there any hesitation, I guess, to zone this, the rest of the 45 of the 50 acres to C2 without having any indication of what?
I
It
think
might-
that the intent that Jim has is to make sure that it has nothing but retail. There's not going to be any kind of single family housing, multifamily or apartments. He strictly wants to keep it commercial or retail, which is what the city wants to see, and I hope that planning and zoning does too. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any limitation that we know of with access into that property?
Well,
The-
it's funny you should say that because there was an article in the paper last week about the DOT kind of pushing it forward. They know that they now have to do a study based on a lot of complaints that they're getting. We just had another accident Sunday. Nobody got hurt. I mean, there was minor injuries, but this is just goes to show you that something does need to be done. And it's my opinion and Jim's opinion that the DOT would not have moved forward and paid for that property if they didn't have something in mind. They have to put this on their capital plan for the next 5 or 7 years. So I think this is just the next step. They bought the property, they're doing the study, and then they'll probably put it as a project. Because this would be nothing, this would be at no cost to us. The only thing that we would have to do is if we have to move infrastructure, we may have to reinforce the road up so far, but at least we'll have that 2 to 5 to 7 year period to be able to prepare for that. So they're up to something, which is good.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's my opinion, and I know that I think we've talked about this before, but Cox Springs is probably going to be closed off.
Yeah.
Especially if they put that overpass there, and I think that's probably in the best interest for everyone.
Hot Springs will probably be closed off, like,
Cox Springs will be
And
closed.
then the new overpass would potentially be at that.
That
Right.
is sort of
yeah,
the-
At Thunder Hills Road.
Thunder Hills Road.
The
intersection there.
DOT will not allow 2 overpasses within a mile of each other. So it's Thunder Hills and then it's Piasta Street or Sundown Road.
Yeah.
So the
So
next
you
one
just
would
kick the
be,
can down the road of having, now your accidents are occurring on the on and off ramps.
so to me, eventually we want to push west. We want the industrial park to grow. And we would ideally like to see another overpass down here at Dutch Lane. That would be perfect because that's another mile away. But that is maybe on any of our tenure here. So we'll let the next group of people deal with that.
Yeah, that's definitely the more immediate
Hmm.
area that should be.
I'm gonna check and see if there's anybody on.
DOT's earmarking that 5 acres already. There's little to no chance that they'd be consuming any more of that area.
Well, the DOT has earmarked 20 acres. They need 20 to do that overpass.
Correct.
So what's gonna happen if they do what they call a double back? It'll be the 20 acres on Jim's property and then 20 acres on the south side. So whoever owns that 20 acres down there is probably gonna get purchased. Or if they do a quad, like a Clover, then they're gonna have to purchase the property from Slavic and they're gonna have to relocate. They're going to have to pay to relocate everybody that are in those apartments. So you think 20 acres this side, 20 acres that side, that will take you literally probably right up to Darkbird.
So that rectangle there, is that indicating the full 50 right now?
Yes, yes,
and 20 of that 50 would be potentially used.
yes. And the 20 that has been purchased by the DOT is in the lower left corner. So just think about when you're,
Within the yellow,
let me go.
within the yellow box.
This is when I wish I had like one of those pointers, but I don't think it would work on this screen. So the DOT owns this right here.
Okay, so they'll use that as a ramp, so he would need to obviously be building
Right,
further
so-
away, frontage road type of a,
Right, so what we're
Future
gonna
mentality.
plan on doing is taking Thunder Valley Drive where it comes out here onto Thunder Hills Road. And this will be the entry point into this property.
let's get you away from the intersection area.
So I
Essentially all-
really want him putting a road in here. Because I want him to have a project in hand for the balance down here. It's gonna become very difficult over here because of that ravine. And that's gonna be $1 million right there for the culvert, just to get across there.
Mhm.
So I think that's one of the reasons why this is not a very desirable side of the property. I wouldn't
What
want
they'll
to.
probably do is do just an exit and an entrance ramp all in that. It'd be the northeast corner of that intersection. Where they just have your typical exit to a stop sign. And then they would horseshoe back with
To go west.
going west.
Right.
So once we do get this rezoned and we get the plans moving through our council, I'll reach out to DOT and District 6, I think it is. And I'll let them know that we have plans, that this is going to happen. These are the projects that's going to go up. This is the traffic that it's going to be generating. And then I think that'll really push that study and hopefully get it on their capital plan and get it moving. Because that overpass for that one side is gonna be 50 million. They're not cheap, folks.
But then we would have to do part of the roadway up to that entrance.
I believe that there's any requirement from DOT that we'd probably have to reinforce the road. Again, it's just gonna be vehicular, it's not gonna be semis or anything like that, but just knowing that there's gonna be added construction going into there with cement trucks and, those roads are not rated for that kind of traffic. And also, as Slavic continues to develop his property, not only along Thunder Valley Drive, but up above, where you kind of see that, looks like a thumb, like this, he owns that too. And that's gonna be all single family, as well as the Crossroads Church. We should be good with sewer and water, that should be way out of the way. I'm just more concerned about our cost being the road. To bring it up to, I guess, standards. Not that it isn't now.
So this would all be part of city water, city sewer,
Mhm.
all of that, correct?
And the very few property taxes that we get.
And those 4 parcels are part of they're already.
They
part
have
of
been
the city.
annexed in.
They've been annexed, yeah.
Mhm.
And each parcel too, just to clarify, they're all 40? Are they each 40?
Well, they're 72, so 36, 37 apiece.
Okay.
I think it's 37. And there are no plans right now to go north and start annexing it. It's just not we can't afford to do it. Not with the rollbacks on the property taxes, and I can't afford to hire more people. So again, this is something that it's a good problem to have. And until we get this property tax situation figured out at the state level, this might too end up being something different group of people and a different administration to deal with.
Because when the industrial park expands and Cox Springs gets shut off, there's more likely to have to be a frontage parallel on the south side of 20, correct? That would
Right.
Connect over to this intersection here, which would feed the truck traffic on and off.
And we've got some more possible development. We'll talk about it another time, but there's 200 acres down here by Bard Concrete
Yeah.
that we're working on bringing in. We're gonna be putting up a new tower and a well. Probably this time next year, we'll see some construction. It'll be a 500,000 gallon sphere, so it'll be huge.
Should that be industrial?
That all is industrial, yeah. So that'll never be commercial. It'll always be like a warehouse. AY McDonald was looking at that property. And again, with the at-grade intersections coming out, it's just too deadly. So we're really kind of looking for a project that has maybe 15, 30 people warehouse. That would be really great. So in that way, they can access Sundown Road and they come up and pick up Highway 20 safely.
They close Cox Springs on the south side?
I don't believe so. If anything, they'll probably make it a right turn only.
Okay.
And I've been really trying to push that on Highway 20 coming off of Thunder and Cox's right turn only. And they're like, we can't do that because people go out in the median. They don't care if they put up barricades, people drive out around them. Yeah, so.
Well, I think just knowing all of the activity that's gonna be growing around there, having the intended use that Conlon wants to do for this would just be, right off of a ramp like that, be a smart, plus for us as a community.
And it'll definitely be a marketing tool for him. I mean, once that, people know that ramp's going in there, it's gonna be a lot easier for him to sell off the rest of his property and help Phil as well.
I would think about the existing, like where Darkbird is and where some of the. I think once the ramp goes in there, that'll make that all more attractive just in general, and so to kind of have, once you get off the ramp in the future, it's commercial kind of on both sides.
How many lots are left available on that? That are
For commercial,
3? I know the one big corner one, then there's the one in between.
Two on the south side, I think 3. One next to the therapy.
yeah, there's one next to Darkbird's parking lot, and I think there's 2 beside
West of Jumbo.
Jumbo.
Jumbo and.
Two, yeah.
Yeah, so there's 3 left. Yeah. So, and those are not cheap either.
No,
I checked on one.
yeah, I think looking at future use, once those things are kind of in motion. That area. To me, does make sense for commercial because it's off the highway, you're not gonna put more housing by the highway, I would think. in the
Well,
future.
especially if an overpass is going there, you're not.
And to keep this in mind, if Jim were to say, okay, I put at least, these 2 projects are here, I'm gonna sell the rest of this property off. And then Brian comes in and says, I want to buy the balance of it, but I want to rezone it to 1. At that point, it's all gonna be a PUD. Because I don't want to have to keep coming back to you folks and asking you to get C1 and C2 are very compatible. I wouldn't really have a lot of heartburn with that. But once you get, to me, when you do the higher zonings like a C2, that anything under that can come in. So if we had a C1, if we had a C0, you could bring that in too. And same for residential, same for industrial, same for manufacturing.
How does like an apartment like what's over there by round 2 with commercial bottom resident, apartments at the top, how does that, is that technically? Is that like a wild card where it can fit into C2 still?
I thought we talked about that.
We did talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we would like to see more of that.
Yeah, because makes more sense.
Yeah, he's got a
space-wise.
waiting list over there and I thought, because we started going through the zoning and then we're
The
like,
commercial side is mostly empty, but
well, yeah,
everywhere right now.
well, I think there's a lot to do with pricing on that one too. But again, I'm not the developer, so.
Yeah.
He knows what he needs to do. Yeah, that would definitely be something that I think that we would be open to opening that zoning up and saying, yeah, it's allowable. Because I think at that point, you're gonna get a lot of, and I'm not discriminating by any means, younger professional people that, want that access to the highway, they want the access to what's happening. And
And
that's
some of the other communities I've lived, I've just noticed there's a lot more of that, and it seems to be pretty successful.
Mhm.
Especially when we're limited on space for
Yeah.
future C2 even.
Yeah.
You can stack them, that makes the most sense.
Yeah, and I would love to see that on Joel Callahan's property. I think that would
Yeah.
be fabulous.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it takes up a lot of space for just like 2-unit apartments, like prime space, not that they don't look nice and it's a good project, but it's kind of prime real estate and spread out 2 floors high. I mean, it doesn't really give you a ton for the amount of space it covers, in my opinion, but.
Right.
But we have so much leakage, so many people are leaving our community right now just for the basic services. And that to have that kind of,
Yeah,
combination would be incredible.
Yeah.
So if you know anything, let me know. Because I don't know, like for West Schulte's, what we're talking about, the college or yes. We don't know who's going in the base until we get a call for water hookup. Because we don't have any connection, we're not there, we're not negotiating the price. So it's real interesting because people naturally think that, hey, you're on planning and zoning, you know what's going on. No, I don't even know what's going on until they connect to the water.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with it, anyone to see to, I don't know if we need to talk any more about it, but.
no, I'm good. Makes sense to me, I'm a newbie, but.
What did you say?
So I'm the newbie, but it makes sense to me.
Oh, you gotta talk a little louder in the microphone.
So I'll make a motion to approve the rezone request from A1 to C2 for the Kylan property on Highway 20. Any opposed?
For 50 acres.
Yes. We'll just basically say what the DOT hasn't purchased from him. So I think the balance would be
Remaining.
right at, maybe just right at 50 or check less.
Great.
Thank
Good
you.
discussion, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, so then we'll move into the native grass for commercial and residential. So I know there's been a little bit of just, looking at current ordinances, and we have an ordinance for grass and the length that it can be. But then, the current ordinance doesn't really touch on the native grass aspect, and some areas might be looking at that from like a landscaping aesthetics piece. And I think what we're being asked to look at is just for consistency. Does it make sense to have a separate provision or a separate ordinance to touch on native grass, or should we be looking at kind of enforcing what we have maybe, or or having some variation of that? So
A little bit of background on this. Believe it or not, I have problems getting people to mow their yards. Okay. And it's on the commercial side, it's very painful because there's people that have large parcels of land that they have to mow, and it's very expensive. So when I have somebody that's complaining about a letter that they get, and they're complaining about Dartbird and how they don't think it looks aesthetically pleasing, and then trying to explain to them that it takes a few years for it to look nice. It could be 3-4 years. And then they want to know what we have in place against this or for it. I have nothing. And every year I get the conversation, and it's becoming more than the same person bringing it up. So I thought this would be a good kind of a kickoff. I did look for some information. The only information I got was from the city of Dubuque, and it was 200. We don't need that. This is just something that I need to start looking at language. I even put it out on my Grapevine network, my own peers. And normally if there's a subject that somebody else wants to know about, they type in following. I had 45 people type in following. So it's on the minds of a lot of cities. So if any of you get really bored,
yeah.
start looking.
Well, I'm sure it's interesting because a lot of more people I feel like are doing the no mow type of thing, and there's a lot of different opinions on that. I think just from some people are proponents of it, some are not, but yeah,
I think
that
it's
puts us-
interesting because if you drive through the community, people take really good care of their yards. There's a few exceptions, but to have somebody just right in the middle of a very fluent neighborhood decide that they're gonna put in native plantings and people don't understand it, and then it becomes an issue because I don't want it in my backyard. I don't want it in my side yard. I don't want to look at it. I have to mow. Why can't you mow? So it's better just to have something in
Verbiage that we
place.
have to develop on that, whether it's something that, does Asbury have something that when they provided their,
Did you say you would ask them?
huh? No, I don't know if I said that. I don't, I may. But it really comes down to the common sense. What's the nature of the intent?
Right.
Is it a waterway area and the native grasses would be a better watershed and less erosion? Is it something to where they're using it and it's an ornamental area in the yard? Or is it something, Dartbird's intent is, as Shelley and I were talking before the meeting, it's when you get into the location, you feel just that out in the wilderness area. And so that's the feel that they want.
But driving by,
Correct.
you're like,
It has the appearance of.
what's going on there?
Correct.
Yeah.
I guess my personal opinion is talking about this, like the IV therapy
Mhm.
place, like it's a professional setting. I'm sure eventually they're going to have a nice yard, well landscaped, and then to have that right next door. I almost feel like they need to have their frontage, at least have a little bit of green,
Mhm.
and then do the native grass. That's just my opinion.
No,
Yeah.
and this is where we have to start because this, is this is your opinions. We
Yeah.
value those.
And I mean, the Jumbo's a very nice, I mean, all those places are very nice and they're attractive. It's kind of the frontage to our city. It's a good balance.
Yeah, you can have information.
Mhm.
It'd almost be nice if the business owners in that area like came to some kind of consensus, and I don't know how that could ever
I think that's a
happen.
great idea.
Yes.
Did you say you wanted to call them all?
Well, I can't.
I'm just joking.
I can't. Because, they all might look at it very differently, and I don't.
I'm assuming Dartford does it, yeah, it looks good, but they don't have to pay
Right.
for the upkeep.
Right.
It's either that or they could just put all stone there, or put rock there that they'd never have to do like they do in Arizona.
Then it's
Would you
streets.
would you rather have that versus what they have now? So I think that's
Yeah.
playing devil's advocate, that as a business owner, that makes sense. Make it look a little bit prettier, so I don't think they're trying to be necessarily lazy, but
No.
better than an alternative of all stone, I think would look probably a lot worse.
So what do you think about maybe just getting the business owners in the same room and having a chat with them?
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, I would want you there. We could just maybe have the next meeting and just invite them to have the conversation.
Yep.
Cause it'll be Slavic, it'll be, Sherry she sold Jumble to her two daughters. So George is still part owner. And then Stephanie from Vibe, Erica from the Sisterhood. And then Jeffy Birds.
Well, to be
Right.
physical therapy.
Yeah.
That would be part of that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And
I'm
that
sorry.
little
Yeah, that little strip mall down there. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
That's interesting, because some of it is, I mean, there is kind of a variation when you drive by there, like everybody's doing a little bit of something different, and maybe that'd be helpful to them too, just to look at, some of them don't have anything set up yet, so maybe they would want to do more of that type of a thing, and then it would be consistent, but.
Well, I'm also thinking too that we eventually want to put a sidewalk or a multi-use trail on the north side. So if you start introducing native plantings, and you can see where I'm going, there might be better opportunity to get some grant funding. Not only for them, but for the
Right.
trail too. So I think that's a great idea.
Great. Consistent, clean and consistent.
And maybe that consistency is just in a C1 and C2.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think
Yeah.
looking at it from a commercial versus,
I think we would really, I would be upset. I mean, I can give you my opinion. I don't want that growing beside me, even though it is beautiful. But I can't see.
It's hard to sell a
area.
house.
Yeah.
Sisters next door neighbor had
At all.
Yes.
hard time selling.
Yeah,
houses.
that was right.
I'm pro native, like I understand the value of native. And like by
Yeah.
that being said, I've noticed multiple times when walking through the front, it does, especially in the early years now.
Well, hopefully next year it'll look
Not
really
that I
better.
drink.
Ever.
Pick up my wife. But whether, new construction, there's always a period of grace on residential, commercial, but then there does need to be action taken.
Right.
Typically it's after the structure's complete on the exterior and it's functioning, it's that next growing season, there has to be some action taken.
Right.
And that's where plans need to be put in place. And so we put a meeting together asking these business owners to come here, property owners, it needs to be voiced as this is a solutions-based meeting. How do we make sure that, if you want to add the extra look and feel to your property and try to, minimize your mowing and have it to where it has a little natural habitat, how do we do it to where we all feel good that there's a pride there?
Yeah.
Because
and-
it's a high visibility area right
Right,
there.
and what we're trying to do along that creek is that we want to put a little bridge back there so people can come from the north and walk over. We're mowing it right now as a nature trail. I don't want to put any hard surface down because I want to leave the nature theme there. We were thinking about trying to clean it out, and we had DNR people come in and they're like, you know what, this is really pretty through here. If you come in and just do like a controlled burn, and then maybe start doing some of those native plantings on our own. It's terribly expensive to go through a company and do that, and I think that we could probably get it done, but this just may be a partnership between all of us moving forward.
So I know with new construction and residential, sidewalks are now
Yeah,
required.
required.
So is that same thing required in C1, C2, it's like for those properties? Because I think limiting ourselves to one side of the street being a sidewalk.
Well, we only allow parking on the north side. That's why the sidewalk is on the north side. On the actual south side, there's 2 lots that we own that we would never we'd have to put another culvert in there and it would become expensive. But when we do start working with the projects for C1, C2, it's in the development agreement that basically says, like, when you bring plans in, it's like, no, you have to put sidewalks in. And they're going to do that. And if they don't, then it's gonna be, well, we're not going to work with you on a certain incentive if it's give and take along the way, but I don't believe it's a requirement in any of the business zonings to put a sidewalk in. It's definitely in the R1 and R2 though. But that's why the sidewalk's only gonna be on the right side through that area. Yeah. Eventually.
Yeah, and it's expensive to plant native grass. I've done it on our property down south and I mean, it can be just as expensive as putting grass or other landscaping, so
Yeah.
I would hate to tell them now, take everything out
Oh
and
gosh,
put in
no.
something else, but
No, I mean, he was a visionary. He's done that. He's put the solar panels on there and not that that's visionary, but he's doing some great things and I'm just really hoping that next year it looks really good because that should be the third season. Yeah, this year's the second season.
Second season.
Yeah.
And we incorporated a lot more wildflowers in ours just because we wanted it to pop right away and not have anybody coming after us, so.
Yeah, well, and I'm not trying to prevent that, but I guess I'm trying to have us be a little bit more proactive rather than reactive.
Right.
Because I don't want to continue to have to say, well, we don't have anything in place that protects it. And I think that this is the right, it's off to a good discussion and it's the right way to handle it.
Well, if again, they're trying to intend to do where there's more sustainability and less consumption and have it to where it's amplifying the setting of that area. We want to promote that.
Okay, so I'll reach out to all those business owners and looking ahead, September 2nd is Labor Day. We're not gonna meet. I won't even be here. Not that you need me. Okay. The next Monday's the 9th. Is that
it works
okay?
for me.
And then we'll just plan on just a normal meeting, but we'll really focus it around the native plantings. And who knows, maybe by September 9th, we'll have some plans for the other one. The other projects that we discussed.
And I heard you're gonna call Asbury, is that what I heard?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You're gonna call Asbury, is that what I heard?
Sure. Carissa's replacement starts the 19th.
Oh, yeah.
It's Kathy Gertz and she's from the city of Cascade. She's a city clerk, was a city clerk. She gave her nose finally today. She's got a lot of planning and zoning experience and a lot of city experience. So I'm really looking.
Perfect.
Yeah. And Kathy did a little bit of consulting for us when Karen Snyder retired. Kathy kind of came in and because I was only here for a year, Marcy was here for 6 weeks before Karen left. So that really kind of put us in a pinch. So she kind of got us across the finish line and it's gonna be nice to bring her back.
I'm joking, I can call if you want. I'll talk to you off.
You guys,
I'll find it.
honestly, if you want to reach out to people, just let me know that you do it. That would help me out tremendously.
Yeah,
It's not,
'Cause I want to start having us bridge, connections with Asbury.
It would be nice.
yeah,
I'll talk to you.
Perfect.
offline.
yeah.
Okay.
So I guess,
Any other thoughts, comments? I don't think anyone jumped on.
there's
Zoom,
nobody
so-
online.
We'll just table this for future conversation, right?
Well, we just had a discussion tonight, so I'll just carry everything over to the next meeting. And then hopefully as we get information, I'll put it out there. I do need to work with you on getting you set up on board docs. So if you got like a few minutes after here, I can show you real quick and then go home and get really confused.
Yeah.
Okay. So we need a motion to adjourn. You guys don't want to, do you have any questions about?
Oh.
Any questions on anything else?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Any opposed? All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
There you go.
Never figured out.
Yeah, I know you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.